Okay, everybody. This is Joseph P. Farrell with news and views from the Nefarium on Thursday afternoon, September 27th, in the year of the apocalypse 2012. The reason I'm smiling and kind of laughing, folks, is this is my fifth attempt to record the news and views. Uh, Four times the recording has simply stopped. One time the phone rang with one of those irritating mechanical, I don't know what you'd call it, polls for, let's just say, it was a poll for Barmit Obromniak. I'm not going to tell you if it was Barmit Obromniak Dummy Crook or Barmit Obromniak Republithug. In either case, I don't care. So this is my fifth attempt to record the news and views from the Nefarium, and I'm so tired of recording it, I have even forgotten what I was going to say. All right. I want to thank everybody for sending articles, donations, memberships, and everything, particularly the articles, because it's really interesting seeing what you guys out there are picking out and the dots that you're connecting. But these two articles I want to talk about today are things that I found, and I think they're deeply connected. I had it all nicely organized in my mind how I was going to try and connect the two articles, which apparently, if you read the articles, they're not really connected. All right. The first article in the Daily Bell is called Spain Falls to Pieces as Predicted, and it's an article basically citing an article by the British journalist Ambrose Evans-Pritchard, and then putting the Daily Bell's usual libertarian spin and comment on it. Now, if you've forgotten who Ambrose Evans-Pritchard was, or is, he's a British journalist that was assigned to the Washington Bureau. I think it was either of the London Times or the Daily Telegraph, I forget which, during the early years of the Clinton administration. And as a matter of fact, he actually wrote a book, very unsparing criticism of the Clintons, called The Secret Life of Bill and Hillary Clinton. And it dug very deeply into their own murky connections to this international Anglo-American financial oligarchy and their plans, all right? And he was very unsparing in his criticism of the official line that the Clinton aide Vince Foster, who supposedly committed suicide, was most likely probably murdered. That's a view I share, because Foster was deeply plugged into attempting to bring up the electronic network that would have been put into place under their health care plan and other things. The whole episode spins out in so many different directions, but I don't want to get into that. I want to talk about Spain, because, folks, what is going on in Spain, I don't know if it impacts you like it impacts me. I like history, as you know. And the idea that Spain, this is the land of Cervantes, this is the land of Velázquez, this is the land of Padre Antonio Soler, that gave us these immense works of art. And Spain, of course, being one of the four great empires, European empires, that spread European culture to the New World. The others being France, of course, and the Netherlands and Great Britain. So, Spain has played a major role in Western cultural history. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but it's there. And I see what's going on in Spain. I want to read what Ambrose Evans-Pritchard says, what the Daily Bell is citing him. Spain now has, and let me also preface to my Spanish friends, if I'm mispronouncing things, please forgive me. I've never formally studied the Spanish language. Spain now has a right-wing nationalist government with Opus Dei links, the Partido Popular. The mood is beginning to become dangerous. Former Army Chief Lieutenant General Pedro Pitarch said his views reflect deeply rooted thinking in large parts of the armed forces. This from El Mundo. The attitude of the Catalan government and members of its parliament is inadmissible. Now, Catalonia, for those of you who don't know, that's the region of Spain around Barcelona. The armed forces are guardians of the Spanish state and its territorial integrity under Article 8 of the Constitution. They will carry out this role scrupulously and strictly to defend the sovereignty and Carta Magna of the Spanish nation. AME said that any flicker of secession must be suppressed. Violators must bear in mind that they will have to respond with all rigor to the grave accusations of high treason under the jurisdiction of military tribunals. Now, stop right there. Effectively, that means that there is martial law in Spain. And we see the response of the Spanish people. You cannot blame them. All right. This, however, this anger, I think, is being misstated by the press. I think the ultimate anger not only is against the Spanish government, but it's against the whole Eurozone concept and the dictatorial attitudes that you see coming out of the European Union in Brussels. It is not a federation in any sense that represents a genuine sort of republic type of government. It is a crypto-fascist state, to be quite blunt. But Pritchard continues, is it the fault of the monetary union? Yes, of course it is. While large parts of the world are in deep economic crisis, including Britain, the damage is concentrated with lethal intensity in the European Monetary Union victim states. Spain's unemployment is already 25%, and the full austerity has yet to bite. It is made much worse by the unpleasant discovery that elected governments can do nothing to escape the trap. They have lost control over their own destinies, unquote. Now, here's the Daily Bell commenting on Ambrose Evans-Pritchard. Quote, actually, governments never could do anything. Governments and their bought and paid for politicos work for a larger money power. It cannot be otherwise. At the heart or spine of all of these countries is a force of professional mercenaries that are pledged like intel agents to work for the money power. They are extracurricular like a shadow occupying force, unquote. Now, what the Daily Bell has just said is you have a combination of intelligence, military, and financial power that is acting as a kind of deep state and an extraterritorial state. In other words, the Daily Bell has just told you that you're dealing, in a certain sense, with Richard Dolan's breakaway civilization idea. And I agree with that. The difficulty is that martial law now represents the occupation by the money power of a sovereign state. That's what's going on. And I think the Daily Bell has it absolutely right. It continues. We've been predicting for over a year now that the controlled Muslim Brotherhood would be used as an agent of change in the Middle East, but even we didn't realize how far-reaching the changes would be. Now, the money power attacks its own allies. In other words, secular Muslim countries like Egypt, like Libya, was in the process of becoming under Gaddafi. We've argued that secular governments were being undermined in the Middle East in order to create a monolith in that region that would provoke at least a Cold War between Christianity and Islam. All right? Now, I agree with that too, to a limited extent. I don't think that it's as much wanting to create religious tension as it is cultural tension. It's Samuel Huntington's clash of civilizations model that they're operating out of. Now, I have some misgivings about the Daily Bell's analysis there, but my real point in pointing this out to you, this article, is that what's going on in Spain is a microcosm of what is beginning to happen now throughout Western Europe. I think eventually it's going to, reach North America. And the real problem is, I think, being somewhat concealed. The internet is making possible the fact that people now are challenging this whole idea that you can surrender the monopoly power to issue a nation's currency to a private central bank that cannot issue genuine money. It can only loan money into circulation, thereby creating perpetual debt. This is what is really behind the Spanish crisis. The banksters want to work the Spanish people to line their pockets. That's what it's all about. All right. Now, in response to that, you have seen localities or regions going to their own currency. In other words, they want to open up the market and have competing currencies. All right. This has already happened in France. We saw it happening in Argentina. I suspect that there are people in Spain talking about it. And if my Spanish friends would let me know, please let me know. All right. But now there's another article in the Daily Bell, equally important, and this one is called U.S. Judiciary Leans Towards Disclosure Laws That Could Confiscate Electronic Assets. And I want to read you toward the end of the article two statements. The first is this one. Quote, to say the cryptocurrency Bitcoin is disruptive would be an understatement. Bitcoin not only disrupts payments and monetary sovereignty, it also disrupts the legal enforcement of anti-money laundering laws, asset seizure, and capital controls. It is very likely that a key disclosure case will make it to the U.S. Supreme Court, where it is far from certain that the Fifth Amendment privilege, as it relates to a refusal to decrypt Bitcoin assets, will be universally upheld. In other words, the American judiciary, or rather the money power, are now pressing for laws that people have to surrender to the government, or to the money power, really, because we don't have a government. We have a money power. We have an oligarchy. Surrender to them their personal encryption keys so that they can go in, look at your financial records, and tax them. All right? But there is another clue here that even that's not the deep story. Remember that phrase, monetary sovereignty. What they're really worried about is that the internet is now going to become the means for the creation of regional or competing currencies with their own monopoly. That's what they're worried about. And what's going on in Spain, I think, and what's going on in this country in a much milder form are reflections of it. Now, I want to read the final statement, a final statement from the Daily Bell article. Quote, here at the Daily Bell, we've constantly maintained that we support competing currencies, even pure fiat ones. But we are also skeptical, especially given the UN support and involvement of the U.S. government in developing Bitcoin's chief anonymizer. All right, unquote. Yeah, exactly, precisely. What you're seeing is an attempt to head off the development of competing currencies at the pass. Now, I think, really, folks, you're seeing the beginning of the challenge. You're seeing what I've been referring to all along as one of those great 500-year transitional periods in world history that we seem to go through once every 500 years. The last one, of course, was the Reformation and the Protestant Reformation. Now we're seeing a similar technology transforming the culture, and in this case, that technology is confronting the dogma that central bank rule and monopoly of a nation's currency is the dogma de rigueur that must be defended at all costs. This is precisely what the Eurozone is all about. This is precisely what is going on in Spain. This is precisely, I think, what ultimately is going on in this country. People are waking up and challenging this whole assumption. So keep at it, people. Keep challenging it. Keep having that debate about the gold standard, the silver standard, competing currencies, government-issued fiat currency as opposed to private central bank-issued debt money, and so on and so forth. This is what's driving them nuts. I suspect that the only thing now backing the European Union, backing the euro, are two factors. Number one, Germany and the German economy. And I've been arguing all along, of course, that the debt crisis, in part, looks to me to be orchestrated to a certain extent to keep Germany locked into the European Union as the creditor nation to the rest of Europe. Now, that's not going to work, folks, any better than it's been working for the United States. All right. The other thing is it means, as you see in Spain, that the ultimate backing of these people is just raw, brute force. That's the problem. Currency of this nature and military complexes, this industrial, intelligence, financial, military complex, has been the model of Western civilization, really, since the days of the High Middle Ages in northern Italy with the rise of nation states like Florence and later, of course, Venice. We have to challenge and look very directly at that paradigm, because what you're seeing now is those people act as a civilization unto themselves, irresponsive of the culture that they're dealing with, in this case in Spain. A rich culture, an old culture. I mean, my word, where would Europe be without that culture? So these people are oblivious. They know only one thing. They're a sick group of people. Anyway, that's my comment for the news and views from the Nefarium for the day. I think I managed to get it recorded the 5th time worked. All right, sorry for such a vague ramble, folks. I wanted to get it all out there. My thoughts were kind of confused after trying it 5 times. I hope they make some sort of sense to you. Anyway, we'll see you on the flip side, everybody. God bless.